I was at an estate sale, and I asked the cashier, do you have any transistor radios? Because usually they keep them in those little cabinets by the checkout. And she said, well, I got this, but we were going to send it to e-waste because no one's bought it, and it's basically just junk. It's missing parts. So she said, here, you can just have it, because I was buying some other stuff. So it's sat around here for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, and I finally looked at it, and you look at it and it just looks like junk, right? It's missing the dial, it's like all baked looking, and this is exactly how it came in the box. It just looks like some crappy, it's all melted. I mean, well, what happened to this thing, right? You can see, so cracked. So I open it up, Regency TR1. This is the very first transistor radio brought to market. This is not your typical even Zenith or little honcoidal set. This is the very first set. So there's actually a whole website just dedicated to the service data on this. It's open for everyone to look at. I think it's like regencytr1.com/PDF or something like that. These things sell for ridiculous amounts of money. It uses a 22 volt battery, which is a little bit unique. Wow, Bell Systems dry battery. Made in USA. So I want to see this work, and I really used to like working on transistor radios. I still do like fixing them as a function of what they are, but unfortunately the programming is either foreign language, sports, 24/7 COVID vaccine propaganda, or 24/7 anti-vaccine Biden propaganda. So you have your choice. It's like there's like nothing. Oh, and classical music. Yeah, it sounds great. So these are supposed to be mediocre performers. 2 IFs, a converter, 1 audio. Let's see. Now I can bring up the schematic. It's got a converter, 2 IFs, and an audio. It doesn't even have a driver stage. So yeah, I don't think. Stand by. Yeah, that's it. Regency TR1.
According to Wikipedia, the Regency TR1 was the first commercially manufactured transistor radio, introduced in 1954.
Only $1,200. I mean, that's not what we want. Regency TR1 schematic.
These pictures should match.
Here it is right here. Regencytr1.com. This is like the whole service manual on this thing. mean, what a bargain. Only $1,100 for a transistor radio. So you can listen to Get Your Jab, Get Your Jab, Get Your Jab all day long. Or Sports Team, Sports Go, Sports Team. That's it. 4 transistors. And it talks about in here that there's it has some regenerative effect to it. And it'll start to motorboat and stuff. It's actually a very touchy radio, the way I could read it. Transistor replacement, the neutralizing circuits at the IF stages require a resistor in series. This is a critical value. So this is not like your typical, this thing will start to motorboat and whistle if we just start filling it with Russian transistors. Okay, let's see, 21.6 volts. You can stay there. I don't know, I want to current limit this down really low. Also in the box is this translucent transistor. We should test that. Now, what is this, condenser for points? Okay, let's see what happens here. It went into overload. Let's see. Guess we just had some capacitors we needed to reform there. A little static, but nothing else. So certainly if C19 was open, it would kill any kind of audio from getting through. C21, if it was bad, it would reduce the gain, and bass response. If this one was bad, it might cause some motorboating. If this one was bad, it would probably definitely cause motorboating, so, and whistling. So maybe what we do is we start by trying to just feed some audio into the volume control and see if we're getting through the last stage. Okay, I've just got some music playing on the phone here, and I'm just coming out of the phone through this is a 2 microfarad capacitor to isolate any DC from going back into the phone. Let me see, we'll make sure that's off. That's wide open. Why do I have nothing there, but when I turn the volume control I hear static? Yeah, I don't quite get that. Oh, you could just barely hear it. Okay, so that capacitor's open. Why is it so much louder here? That's like driving it into the emitter. Let's see what happens here. I think this is that emitter bypass.
You're caught in the tender trap.
So I jumped that capacitor across that one that's open.
Creamy nut butter makes it delightfully sweet. Roasted nuts make it perfectly.
We got a loose capacitor here. Solders are broken. Lots of intermittence. Jesus. All the intermittents are driving me crazy. It looks good. It looks like just open capacitors and maybe some compromised solder joints. This is my plan. I need to place an order with DigiKey. I'm going to order the little axial lead tubular tantalum capacitors. They're very small, and I'm almost tempted to just stick them on the bottom. I mean, not that this radio is any kind of... It would be neat if I could get American-made capacitors that were any good, because this is 100% American-made. It really is. I mean, I think the transistors were made by Texas Instruments in this, and I would really like to keep this all original, but I don't think that's going to be possible. So what I do is I get the Chinese capacitors and I just put them on the bottom to where you can't see them. I mean, not that anyone's going to look, but I just think it would be cool to, you know, have it looking original. Let me look. I'm going to look at this. So many websites on this radio. I'm going to Regency TR1. I'm going to look at some of these. Yes, these are Texas Instruments transistors. You can see the TI logo right there. Yes, these are Texas Instruments transistors. I wonder what generation this is. How do I find that out? I know there are buffs out there that know. Let me try and read this website. If I'm reading this right, this is serial number, or this is number 18,289 out of about 100,000 of these. I'm not entirely sure though. And I'm not going to spend a bunch of time reading the history. I want to see it work. And it's too bad the dial is missing. I don't know why when people take stuff apart they can't keep it all together. I just want to see it work. I think it's cool as hell. And I know it's not going to perform very well, but still it's a cool piece of history. And it's totally American made. Even the freaking case. I just need to find a dial for this thing. I don't really care what it's off of. I need to find a screw and a dial, and then I'm going to get two of those old 12-volt batteries and put them in here in series. Back to our TR1 repair. But first I thought I'd take a quick diversion and test this clear looking transistor that was in the box. It could still be a transistor. It's hard to tell. A lot of these early transistors don't test right on this thing, but work just fine. Imagine what an amazing thing this would have been to hold in your hand in 1954. That would have been such an incredible thing to see that and actually own one and hold it in your hand. Anyway, back to our TR1, I found a temporary dial. I robbed this out of one of those Chinese radio kits, and the capacitors have arrived, and I went with Kemet tantalum capacitors. And I know some will say, well, you shouldn't use tantalum in an audio circuit. Look at it, okay? These are not cheap. These are about $4 each. So this has a 2 microfarad, a 5 microfarad, and 2 40 microfarads. So I went with a 2.2, a 4.7, no, 2.2, 247s, and a 4.7. This is a 4.7, right? Made in Mexico? Country origin, Mexico. Oh, that's good. They're not cheap. Yeah, these are from Mexico, so at least they're like from the right continent. Yeah. So we're safe to put these in here. That's cool. And I think they'll be aesthetically pleasing and they'll fit. They're not cheap. And I ordered batteries off of Dogecoin. Talk about a waste of plastic. I think these were about 50 cents a piece. And I ordered 10 of them. Wow, look at this. They come in a thing you can hang from your wall. Anyway, these are A23 cells. They are 55 milliamp capacity. 2 of them, I don't know if they'll fit directly in line, but 2 of them should fit in here. Remember, this is 22.5 volts, so 24 volts should be within range. And this will probably just be sort of a novelty. This is not something I'm going to use constantly. It's mostly just a kind of a show and tell piece. Here's one of the first transistor radios. It's quite baked. So, and if the thing uses 5 milliamps, it should run it for 10 hours, right? Look at the way they put that little coil, that little loop in the wire so you could lift the capacitor up and access the twist tab. Same thing on this side. That is just the same thing with this one, because there's a twist tab here. See, they got that little loop so you can lift the capacitor up. That is just, I don't even know what to say about that. Okay, here it is with all new capacitors installed. I even put the little loops in there just to keep it. And you know, they look okay. I just kind of jammed the batteries in there temporarily. So let's see how it works.
And to try to get people into housing, when local outreach teams have already been working on that for months.
Focusing resources and support on these encampments without following these best practices could result in a few risks and consequences.
LASA Executive Director Heidi Marston says people may...
You know, it's a single-ended amp. I imagine it's Class A, and it's not very loud, but I wouldn't think it would be very loud.
People experiencing homelessness, but also the community at large.
Be number one, to tell you the truth, to see what's really going on, which brings me to what's happening in six-figure, gonna get
Think about it. What did he do? Rendered him incapable of making a living on the internet because of Google/YouTube. As a scientist, he noted that ivermectin saved lives. Y no solo esto, sino que tenemos...
전혀 에어컨 선풍기 모르고 살던 지역에서
get rid of Donald Trump and we turned out Biden. But I think, like some members of the Black Lives Matter movement, we've realized that Joe Biden is better at promising things than on delivering. And for Black thanks, Bill, for having me.
I don't think the squealing is right.
Election processes. Are you allowed to be a person who asks questions about the sanctity of election? I mean, if you...
two right lanes are available to get through, but it's 9/11.
The University of Laverne, rated first in California for alumni satisfaction.
I mean, they say the performance is mediocre. I would call it that. I don't think the squealing is right. That's probably a transistor that's out of whack. And it sure is not very loud. So how many of you knew that the point of these holes was to cut screws? And for this, we want the screws as short as possible because they run into the tuning condenser. But yep, that's what this is for. And then when you back it out, of course, it cleans the threads back up. So this is the set's current draw. I got this in series with the batteries. So it's about 4.7 milliamps. Low listening volume.
Plus, with your good credit, pay 0% financing for 24 months with your minimum monthly payment.
And of course, being Class A, the current draw goes down as it gets louder. So yeah, it's about 5 milliamps. So these batteries would run at about 10 hours. This is why we love AM radio. You know, who could resist this? It's like karaoke night at the sushi bar. Oh God, that means I'm gonna have to edit it out because it's gonna get tagged.
In like the last 10 minutes or so, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, a lot of people are like, oh, it must be election related. No, not election related. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has overturned Bill Cosby's sexual assault convictions, and they have barred all further prosecution. Bill Cosby, 83 years old, will be released from prison today. Pennsylvania's Supreme Court overturned his conviction, finding both two things. One, there was an agreement with a previous...
출석 체크해주신 청취자 여러분들과 인사 나누도록 하겠습니다.
In fact, among the new laws, the ban on buying more than one handgun in 30 days expands to include semi-automatic rifles. California will have an ombudsman to advocate for the field complaints from student loan borrowers dealing with predatory lenders. And the state's 3 juvenile prisons will...
está utilizando, está dando 건강검진까지.
De desesperación y de emergencia.
허리케인 석현철님이 또 어김없이 좋은
That's me admitting that I did something wrong.
Standpoint that I didn't do anything, I'm not going to participate in your therapy type of things.
I'm just an odd.
Definitely not a DXer, is it?
Sexual assault cases particularly, but what they say they saw as the increasing tendency of judges to allow testimony that would cross the line into character attacks. Remember, you can't just say bad things about somebody in court. They have to be able to prove with facts.
You would think the AVC capacitor is bad, but it's not. It's just, it's like it's really made for headphones, and it's kind of mediocre performance. But I think there are other issues with it. I think a lot of the motorboating is due to those capacitor networks that are matched to the transistors.
와우, 오늘 많이 들어오셨네요. 유튜브 채시로. 조영님, 브라이언 킴님.
올가니노 양모 친구, 올가닉 친구의
이영도님.
and then the next poco todavía tengo una and people that were accused of
Sheriff and the LA County Fire Department are advising people to attend public professional fireworks displays.
It's safer and a lot cheaper. Pete Demetrio, KNX 1070 News Radio. Your Wednesday morning drive, stuck in traffic. We're here to help. We got
I want to just show the inside of it, then we'll wrap this video up. I think it's a really cool piece of American history made right here in America. It didn't come from anywhere else. It came from here. And I think that's very cool.
your front license plate attached and your registration handy. Don't give them a reason. 1-800-NO-COP.
It's just, you know, it's 2 transistors shy of what the standard AM radio became. Converter, 2 IFs, detector, audio driver, and then 2 audio outputs. So it's 2 transistors short. But anyway, here's what I ended up with the batteries. Like I say, this is more of a novelty just to turn on and show to somebody. It's definitely not in good shape. It is not a showpiece. I did look on YouTube there. I didn't see any other. And yeah, the capacitors, I think they don't stand out really loud as, you know, modern foreign components. They actually kind of fit the way the thing looks. So yeah, the tantalum capacitors, the Kimmett tantalum capacitors, they're not cheap, but I think they complement this radio really well if you have one of these. And there were no really restoration videos on, or resurrection, or repair, recapping, or whatever. Yeah, this is definitely not a nice specimen, but I do appreciate it for what it is. I really do. I think it's awesome to own one.
Memorial Day sale. Save on everything you need to brighten up your home or make your workplace more comfortable. New upholstery in several styles and colors, including sleeper sectionals with.
Yeah, I just keep it around to show people that, hey, this is Regency TR1, the first commercial transistor radio. Here you can listen to KNX on it. They'll tell you to get your
stomach issues.
So I did my research and talked to my doctor, and we finally uncovered the truth.
It was actually EPI. Exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, is a condition where your pancreas is unable to help break down your food.
It can lead to symptoms like diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, unexplained weight loss, and oily stools.
And EPI symptoms can be confused with
I
those of
love
other common
oily
digestive
stools.
conditions, like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, and celiac disease.
So getting to the right diagnosis meant being more open with my doctor about the severity of my symptoms and how often they were happening.
But there's good news. EPI is manageable, so don't wait any longer. Use the symptom checker at identifyepi.com and schedule a visit or call with your doctor to ask, could I have EPI?